What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to a video by Into the Shadows, and this video is called 7/7, the day London came under attack. So, to be completely honest, I have no idea what happened on July 7th in London. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I just don't know what this is referring to. The day London came under attack. But it sounds, pretty significant. I'm actually pretty surprised I haven't heard about this before. So today, I really want to take a look at this video and learn about this tragic event in British history for the very first time. So let's take a look.
It was a day like any other. A day history was never meant to remember. The 7th of July, 2005.
Oh, geez.
Season
2005. 2005. That was 20 years ago. Man, can you believe that was 20 years ago already? Huh. But that kind of explains it to me, why I don't know about this. The day London came under attack, I almost thought this was going to be something from World War II or some historical event that I didn't learn about. This was only 20 years ago. This was very recent. But when this happened, I was only like a very young teenager at the time, probably pretty stupid and certainly not aware of what was going on in the world like a lot of American teenagers. So, okay, this happened well within my lifetime. So let's keep going.
Susan Levy was a 53-year-old legal secretary from Hertfordshire. She was making her way to work by train, just like any other day. We don't know if she saw the man who killed her. We don't know if he looked at her or gave her even the slightest thought. What we do know is that just after 8:51 a.m. on Piccadilly line number 311 underneath Russell Square, Jermaine Lindsay would detonate a homemade explosive device hidden in his backpack. This explosion...
What? What? Somebody set off a backpack bomb in the train station. Oh my God. Oh my. How many people were ultimately affected by this? They're just talking about one person. Did one person die? Or this sounds... I have so many questions. This is horrifying. This is terrifying. I can't believe I have never heard of this. It was in a train station in London. Someone had a bomb in their backpack? Why? And how many people were hurt? And what did this do? And oh my God.
Explosion would kill 26 ordinary men and women.
Wow. Wow. 26 people died because of some psychopath carrying a bomb, and was it like a homemade bomb, or I don't know. Is that weird? When you hear about these sick, psychotic individuals, I feel like humans, we have a strange curiosity. What was wrong with that person? How did they do that? Why did they do that? And it's another part of me thinks, does it even matter? Some sick, psychotic murderer killed a bunch of people, and they don't even really deserve to be remembered in history, that the murderer. But for the sake of learning and stuff, let's keep going.
Susan Levy would be the first identified victim of the attacks.
Oh my God. Jeez, that's just the intro? That's just the intro? Oh my God. Yeah, what a way to start. Well, Even though that leaves me with a lot of questions, it answers a lot of questions for me about what happened on July 7th in London, 2005. Some guy blew up a bomb at a train station in London. Prelude. What happened before the devastation?
The story that day began 5 years earlier in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. Jermaine
What? They know like the whole backstory to this? This is 5 years in the making? How? Is this more than just some like complete psychopathic moron just went crazy and blew up a bomb? Is it there more to it than that?
Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. Jermaine Lindsay was only 15, but his path of radicalisation had already begun. Spurred on by his mother, he had been caught at school spreading leaflets proclaiming obedience to, and at the time, little-known organisation called Al-Qaeda. Had this been...
He's associated with Al-Qaeda? Al-Qaeda? I've always pronounced it Al-Qaeda, but anyway, like a Middle Eastern terrorist organization, that one?
Reported a year later, he would have been detected by counter-terror officers. Had it been a decade later, he would have been taken into custody. Instead, nothing was done to prevent what was coming except for a...
What? Yeah, Americans are very familiar with this name and this group. I wasn't aware they had done anything like in the UK, or let alone this. This is, geez. Yeah, he was handing out flyers and posters, like spreading the word of Al-Qaeda to his school, like handing out information packets, and nobody really thought, I'm sure people thought that was strange, but it was a long time ago, maybe when the world was a little more innocent or something, anyway, or maybe the proper procedures just weren't in place, like he's saying, but geez, the warning signs were certainly there, weren't they?
Small school report naming Lindsay as a troublemaker. Now, we don't know how Lindsay met Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Shehzad Tanweer, or Hasib Hussein. All we know is that just before 7 a.m. on the 7th of July, the four were pictured on CCTV for the first time in Luton train station's car park. Khan...
There's four of them. There's four of them. I thought it was just one guy, one crazy guy. There's four of them.
Tanweer and Hussein had all arrived in the same car with Lindsay in a second. On arrival, the four had been observed to share a brief hug before taking rucksacks from Khan's car and making their way into the station. They had a train to catch.
Did all of them have a backpack or a rucksack, or did all of them have an explosive, or was it just the one guy, or... Because this sounds like it's getting worse than what I even... It was already horrible. Like 20-some people dead, bomb going off. Like, is it any worse than that?
Earlier that day, the trio had set off from a property which they'd rented in Alexandra Grove, Leeds. The flat would later be described as a full-scale bomb-making factory by the intelligence services.
Oh my
God. The
God.
group were next seen at 7:22 a.m. They had all purchased return tickets to London, later boarding the 7:33 a.m. to King's Cross. Eyewitnesses would go on to describe them as happy, smiling, laughing, and looking excited. Some would even compare them to sports fans going to a big game. The final chance...
Bastards. Truly. Like, the only way to describe them. Laughing, having a good time, celebrating the day that they're going to murder people. Absolutely sick. Honestly, and their apartment was like a bomb-making factory. This reminds me of something that would like happen here in the United States. You don't typically hear about this kind of thing. At least for me and a lot of Americans, we don't really associate this kind of stuff with this kind of violence and stuff and explosives and guns and with the UK, really. It's become somewhat normalized here in America. There's been like the Boston bomber, where someone bombed a marathon, a race, like a few years ago. And yeah, there's been a lot of famous school shootings and these tragedies, and 9/11, in New York City. these tragedies are not unheard of here in America, but this is pretty shocking for me to hear this happened in London.
To stop them came at 8:26 a.m. CCTV caught them passing the security checkpoint at King's Cross Station. This was the final time that they'd pass any police officers that day. Eyewitnesses would later come forward to say that the four were seen hugging before making their way through the ticket machines, then separating and making their way to their targets. Still,
Were there more than one? So there are four of them, and they split up. Were they trying to do four separate bombings?
little blame can be placed on the security being so relaxed. There had not been an attack on the London Underground since 1993, and there was no sign of any new threats.
There was an attack on the London Underground in 1993. I don't know about that one either.
At least no sign that the security had been made aware of. In truth, both Tanweer and Khan were people of interest to MI5. Both had been connected to suspected terror training camps in Pakistan, and Khan had even been connected to a fertilizer bomb plot which had been thwarted the year before. He had apparently approached one of the unnamed defendants in that case and informed them that he could get hold of a large amount of explosives. Despite this, MI5 had simply concluded that Khan was nothing but a fraudster with little actual experience or access to explosives, or at least they hoped.
Oh no! Whether it was like bad information or the wrong analysis, some of these guys were on the radar. Like British intelligence knew about them and knew they were connected to weapons and terrorists. And unfortunate. That's just really unfortunate. Like you can't. I'm sure there's lots of people of interest that end up being nothing, and you can't just go like arrest them all, I guess. And you gotta concentrate your resources, and sometimes you just get it wrong. In this case, unfortunately so.
At 8:50 a.m. on the 7th of July 2005, they would be proven wrong in the worst possible way.
What? Horror on the London Underground. Yeah, no
The
kidding.
explosions all occurred within 50 seconds of one another. First, the attack at Aldgate Station, where 7 innocent people would be murdered by Shahzad Tanweer. Then came the attack at Edgware Road. Here, Khan would murder 6 people. And finally came the attack under Russell Square, where Susan Levy and 25 other innocent lives would be snuffed out in an instant.
Whoa. What? Okay, so the 20-some death count is all of these different stations added together? There were 3 separate explosions, all within like the same minute. This is terrifying. This is genuinely terrifying to learn about.
Final train had been particularly packed due to carrying additional passengers from an earlier cancelled service. Still, there were 4 bombers. So where was Hasib Hussein?
Yes, only 3 of them actually went off. 1 did not. Okay.
Later determined by investigators that Hussein had likely gotten cold feet, being caught on CCTV about 5 minutes after the explosions in a corner shop just outside of King's Cross Station. This singular revelation unveiled the true evil of the bombers that day. This was the definitive proof that the bombs were not on a preset timer, but instead that the bombers had to actively detonate the devices themselves, fully aware of all of those around them. It was at about the same time.
Sick. Truly, like, what? There's only so many words to describe, like, somebody who straps a bomb on themselves and goes to a public area and then kills themselves and everyone around. It's just sick. It's disgusting. It's horrific. It's evil. Yeah, what else can you really say?
That Hussein entered the corner shop, that emergency services would arrive to each of the stations, ambulance staff and firefighters rushing into action, not waiting for the all clear, not caring about their own safety.
Wow.
As they
Seriously, emergency responders are very special people. In this case, they ran in to help. You don't know if there's bombs have been planted all over the underground. You don't know if there's going to be more explosions. You have no idea. And people went in to help anyway. That's amazing.
made their way into the dusty catacombs of the London Underground, they would find hundreds of ordinary men and women, all of who were rushing to the trains to do whatever they could to help. It would be later estimated that over 1,000 people volunteered to help emergency services that day.
Wow.
At 9:24 a.m.,
Wow. Wow, that's kind of special. That's a really cool, not what happened, but the sort of British response to what happened. That's really admirable.
was caught on CCTV passing London's legal quarter. From here, he would catch the bus to Old Street Station. It was at this time that the Metropolitan Police would declare a major incident. Up until now, it had been assumed that the chaos was the result of some catastrophic electrical fault.
Right. Right. The only thing I can even think to relate this to is like 9/11 in the United States when the first tower was hit by a plane. People thought, was it construction? Was this a mechanical failure? Did a plane... A lot of people thought that an airplane accidentally flew into one of the World Trade Centers in New York. Yeah, that was the time we were living in, where people were just couldn't even imagine a terrorist attack like this at our home. And it sounds like that sort of reaction was happening in London, where people, you don't immediately, and that's the way it should be, hopefully, in a that you don't immediately assume like terrorist bombings are taking place. You just assume some kind of accident happened.
Now it had become clear that London was under attack.
Yeah.
It was also around this time that the evacuation of 250,000 people from the underground was completed, the majority being herded onto replacement bus services to carry on as if nothing had happened.
Wow.
It was one such replacement bus service, the number 30 to Tavistock Square, that Hasib Hussein would board alongside some survivors from one of his compatriots' attacks.
Really?
At 9:47 a.m., Hussein would detonate his bomb, killing 13 innocent people.
Oh my God. This is so bad. Like, I was not prepared for this story today. I know that the video title is just like 7/7, the day London came under attack. I didn't know what that meant. This is disgusting. So I thought it was all. The other thing is, I thought the story was kind of done. Okay, the three of them blew themselves up and killed everyone. It's pretty horrible, but okay, that's what happened. No, that's not. The fourth guy got cold feet and then later detonated his bomb on a bus. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. Like, this is insane.
One of the very few pieces of luck that day would be that he chose to detonate his device outside the headquarters of the British Medical Association, the governing body of doctors in the UK. By pure coincidence, the BMA had been hosting a conference for the best trauma doctors in the country on that day, and through their quick-thinking actions, countless lives would be saved.
Wow. Yeah. Like, even in the horror of this story, there are some, like, bright points where it's like how people in London responded. Emergency responders to the train explosions and this bus that happened to blow up right next to a bunch of world-class trauma doctors. That's pretty lucky.
When the doctors turned the BMA building into an emergency medical centre. With Hussein's detonation, the deadliest attack in London's history since World War II and the deadliest attack in British history since the Lockerbie bombing of 1998 was over.
Oh my God. I don't know about this Lockerbie bombing either, but geez, God knows. Save that for another day. This is too much already. Deadliest attack since World War II.
52 ordinary people who had just been going about their everyday lives had been murdered.
It's 52. I thought the count wasn't quite adding up to 20. That was just one of the bombers. One of the bombers killed 26 people or whatever it was. Altogether, they killed 52. 52 innocent people who had no clue what was going on. It's so just going to work, just living their life. Like he said, July 7th should have just been an average, ordinary day. I never, ever, I did not expect this.
Another 100 suffered life-changing injuries, and a further 700 suffered serious injuries.
Yeah, seriously. They killed 50 people and ruined countless others. Hundreds of people's lives ruined. The families of people who died, people who were hurt. Thousands of people were affected by this.
This left the British public with two questions. Who and why?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, on its face, it's just a sick act of some individuals who are complete losers and really don't even deserve to be called humans. But with that being said, you do want to know, like, why? Like, what? And also to be aware of, like, are we in danger still? Like, is there more terrorists, or are there more people who want to do this? Or so getting to the bottom of it and figuring out why and how is important.
At 12:05 p.m. on the day of the explosions, then Prime Minister Tony Blair would leave the ongoing G8 summit to make a press conference, the American President George Bush leaning just over his shoulder. Blair would confirm that an attack had taken place and that multiple people had been killed. He further promised to return to the UK immediately and take personal charge of the situation. 5 minutes later, the first question would be answered when Al-Qaeda would take responsibility for the attack.
Wow. So that's how we know. They're proud. They openly took credit. A lot of people in the UK, you must remember the day this happened. Like, this must be burned into your memory. This is such a huge event.
One of the weirder and more British happenings of the day would occur at 3 p.m, an event which would become a rallying cry for not only those still in London, but those all over the country. At 3 p.m. of the day of one of the most destructive terror attacks in British history, public transport in London was reopened. Now, to any foreign viewers today, that might be confusing, but in the British mindset, this was a representation of the Blitz spirit.
I am very surprised that public transportation reopened the same day? The same day? You don't know if more of these attacks are going to happen. I'd be scared to even go to work, like, after that. Wow, the same day. That does take some tremendous spirit to just carry on like that.
Idea that no matter what they do to ruin our lives, we will never let them alter how we act. It was also at 3 p.m. that the...
So sort of a British sensibility. Going back to the Blitz, I remember the Blitz, which was like bombings on London during war, right? And just the British spirit of being like, we're not going to let whatever they do, we're not going to let it affect us. We're not going to show weakness. We're going to just carry on. And that kind of brings back control of the situation to you. You can control how you respond to these situations, and that's an amazing response and an amazing attitude.
The first intelligence service operatives would arrive at the scene of the attacks. It didn't take long to identify the attackers, a partially intact passport being thanked for the quick identification of Khan. From there, they had to move swiftly. It was obvious that the cell that had organized these attacks could have been bigger than just these 4 bombers. And it was.
Yeah.
On the 12th of July, 6 properties across London, 1 property in Aylesbury, and the aforementioned bomb-making factory in Leeds would all be raided by armed police.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Following up on this is very important. See, there's more people involved. There's this bomb-making factory in London.
The man was taken into custody, and it was discovered that the situation was far worse than the intelligence services ever imagined. Documents found on that day have never been declassified, but we know that they made the intelligence services realize that this cell wasn't just half a dozen radicalized terrorists operating out of their shed. They discovered that it might just have been the largest terror cell ever uncovered on British soil.
What?
This instantly changed the focus. No longer were they looking to explain 7/7. A more pressing matter had to come first. They had to catch the rest of this cell before there was a...
That's right. It's not over. Well, it's over now. Hopefully. It's been 20 years, but it's... So back when this was happening, it's like we can't even rest, and we don't even have time to mourn what has happened. We gotta protect everyone else from whatever else could be out there.
A repeat attack, and they failed. In the early hours of the 22nd of July, a second attack would be put into motion.
What?
This time, 5 bombers would embark onto the London Underground with homemade bombs, specifically having chosen trains that were still carrying an increased load thanks to the lines that had been put out of action.
What? 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 This this keeps going. There's more. There's more insane people with bombs getting on trains. This is unbelievable.
Had been put out of action. Luckily, these bombers were far worse at their job than their predecessors. Not a single person was injured or killed in these attacks outside of a passerby who suffered an asthma attack.
Really? Thank God. What? Did their bombs go off? Did they actually detonate more bombs? That's insane. But no one else was killed. Luckily, these are like the worst terrorists ever, which, if you're like an insane terrorist, you're probably not that smart anyway, so that's good.
All 5 would then evade police for a few days before finally being hunted down and sentenced to life imprisonment for conspiracy to murder, as well as one more man who was never named but was charged with being the primary orchestrator of all 9 attacks.
Okay.
Tragically, it would be
Good. Good. A lot of them were caught and put in jail. Hopefully still in prison to this day. Okay, that's some, you can't bring those people back who died. But that's some kind of justice for them.
in the hunt for these bombers that the final victim of 7/7 would lose his life. Jean-Charles de Menendez was a 26-year-old electrician boarding the underground to go to work. Unbeknownst to him, the attempted attack had taken place about 20 minutes before he made his way to Stockwell Station. De Menendez had the misfortune to match the description of one of the attackers almost perfectly, and as a result, he was followed into the station by 2 undercover officers. Shortly after boarding a train,
No. What can you even say about that? Bad luck. Bad luck? Wrong place, wrong time. You match the description of one of the terrorist bombers, and then you accidentally go to where they were. What can you even say? I understand, like, law enforcement has to try to protect everyone. Yeah, you have to go off something, like what they look like, the terrorists, and that sucks. That really sucks.
the officers would engage and kill him. It would later be determined, by an inquest, that despite the fact that the officers had made no attempts to take him alive and shouted no warnings, that the killing was lawful due to their honest beliefs that he had a bomb and he posed an imminent threat to human life.
Wow. Part of me gets it, and part of me is like, you didn't even try to talk to him? You didn't even give him any warning. He had no idea. I think it's really hard. Like, your city is being bombed. Dozens of people are dying. And you have to move quickly, and you have to operate under incomplete information. This is real sad. This part's very sad to me. This guy just got killed by police because he looked like one of the terrorists. They didn't make much effort to try to understand the situation, like if he was innocent or not, but they thought they were doing the right thing. That sucks. That's hard. That's really hard.
Despite the ongoing debate around the lawfulness of his death, it cannot be disputed that Jean-Charles de Menendez would not have died that day if not for the 7/7 attacks.
Yeah, that's true. Well, with that, that's where we're going to end it. That is an insane story. I can't even process that all actually happened 20 years ago. I'm really glad that I know about it now, because what a horrible, tragic event in British history. Bombings in London, 50 people dead? Terrorists? Fear? British people trying to just move on, move forward during the whole thing? Innocent guy killed by police? This story is insane. Like, actually, I had no idea any of this happened. And I feel like there's probably other Americans, probably around my age as well, or younger, who don't know about this. So I'm glad I took some time to learn about this and kind of, you know, remember and honor those people who lost their lives, because this is just so sad and senseless. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on 7/7. If you were alive when this happened, or if you remember this happening, or any of your thoughts or feelings about this, that'd be really cool to hear about, especially if you're British or from London, or know anybody affected by this. God, feel free to leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.